Welcome to the REDHEADREVEAL podcast. I am Jenn Pinkerton, your Redhead host, a psychotherapist, high-performance coach, writer, and speaker. As a connection expert, I help people reveal their connectedness within relationships, transforming from the root causes of beliefs and behaviors that hold them back from thriving in life. Let's talk about how you're thriving. All right, I'm excited today to have Ben Berg, the founder and CEO of Berg Hospitality Group, Fine Dining, Houston, Texas. He is the entrepreneur of, all these restaurants that we see in Houston. And before I turn it over to him, I got to tell you guys, if you have not visited this slew of restaurants, there's too many to even mention. But for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with Berg Hospitality Group concepts, we were talking about Annabelle's, we're talking about A&E Cafe and Bar, B&B Butchers, BB Lemon, Benny Chow's, Amelia's, Nopo Cafe, Prime 131, The Ranch Saloon and Steakhouse, Tavola, Trattoria Sophia, Turner's, Real Agave. Ben, how do you even have time to be here on this podcast?
I don't know. I don't sleep much.
Well, we're excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
You're such an entrepreneur, and you have such a visibility, I think, in our community for how much success that you've had in what I think in the restaurant business is a difficult industry. Anybody would state, Yeah,
I always say for everything, everyone, says the restaurant business is difficult, but I think every business is difficult.
True.
Right? We just have a high failure rate because a lot of people get in it that aren't professionals at it.
That's a really
that's
good
the way
point.
I look at it. I've been in this my whole life.
And you have a system, obviously.
Right. I've been to school for it. I went back for master's at Cornell for hospitality. I've been working in hospitality since I was 19. And then you build a team that can help you expand and do it all. And allows me to be here.
Exactly. It's obvious that you do have a recipe, shall we call it, because you've been able to put out so many restaurants in such a short period of time. I feel like every moment there's another one coming out, and a lot of people I know are like, how can you have another one so soon?
We have one opening in 2.5 weeks.
And you just proved my point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we're going to take a little break for around 6 months, and then you'll see.
Okay.
It shouldn't, like in Houston especially, we opened 8 restaurants in 14 months. That's
8 restaurants in 14 months?
That's insanity.
Wow.
And that's not really counting the 2 or 3 management ones that we took over, then reopened or reimagined. It wasn't supposed to happen that way. COVID slowed everything down, construction times, the city of Houston permitting office. But that was like sadomasochist stuff. It was brutal. Brutal.
So from a mental health perspective, you're openly just admitting that was absolutely, a brutal decision on your part.
Yeah, there was a time like in, I think it was April-ish, May. We had just opened 2 restaurants. I had 2 coming up. I had hard deadlines on one of them. This one we opened in Arlington with at the Lowe's Hotel at the stadiums, and I had to be open. Going through a divorce, that was finalizing, and finally I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. I just said, I'm going away for 7 days. Went to Canyon Ranch and breathed and meditated.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I love hearing that because you obviously realized that you were at a breaking point and you needed to work on your own self-care to be able to
100%.
survive through that.
Especially in this business where I think I make myself part of the success is making myself available to guests, to everybody. And I enjoy it. That's my high. I wouldn't give out my cell phone number because I have this fear that there's going to be that day nobody's going to call me for a reservation. But at least they're calling now, and I want to be there for them. I'm never too big for it or anything.
And that's wonderful because I think your guests actually feel that. I personally do as well, feel that. And you do provide this sense of you are the face of everything. And with a lot of, I think, people that are in the industry, they don't. They're very removed from it. Right. And I can certainly see why that would be part of that recipe for your success.
Well, I just love that high. My real high is when you walk into that dining room and it's buzzing, and the valet cars are, stacked up, and it's a show. It's like the theater, and you just see the buzzing and the smiling faces and the noise of, cheers, and that's my high.
So this is your dopamine hit.
Yeah, I love being in my restaurants. It's exhausting sometimes
I bet
it's
it
long
is.
days now.
And how do you keep that schedule up?
I pace myself. I used to feel I had to be in the restaurant every Saturday. It was like the FOMO stuff, right? What am I going to miss? But we've built such a strong team that now I can't micromanage this stuff anymore.
Right.
It's too much. And it's especially the last 6 to 8 months, it's kind of learning, okay, what's my real role as CEO now? and how do I fit in, and where can I be the best, and let all these, we have some really, really great talent in the company that Houston's really been put on the map a lot for food and beverage. And 5 years ago, you couldn't attract people from New York or Las Vegas or LA to move here because they just, how am I going to shine in Houston? But that's all changed. And I think we're an attractive company because, again, I don't sleep much. And we have so many different concepts. So it's not just cookie cutter, let's do another of the same over and over. So it's very attractive for chefs and stuff like that. So they can kind of do different things. So when you get these people, and I think we pay very well for the industry, a lot of great perks that let them do their job, right? I was like, at one point, I was probably, I was slowing things down because I had to touch everything. And learning to step away and let, trust people and let them do what they do best is hard. But
and when you provide people that autonomy,
correct,
then you're giving them a chance to either sink or swim.
Right, exactly.
And obviously everybody's swimming just fine.
Yes. I mean, some people we have to steer one way, but,
So you got your start so long ago. I heard you just say you went to school for this. You even went to your master's. Tell me kind of about that journey of how you even got to where you are.
So, I went to Tulane, and I think it was my sophomore year. I decided I needed some extra money because there was some good partying in New Orleans. And I went to get a job at the famous Tulane bar and just started working my way up. And I became an assistant manager. I did summer school, and I would... The company that owned the bar, which is The Boot, which is still there and famous, I'd work in some of their restaurants they had. And by the time I was about to graduate, I was assistant manager there. And my father goes like, "What do you want to do?" And I go, "I don't know. Maybe I'll take the LSATs or something." As a lot of people in the United States don't look at the hospitality industry as a profession. In Europe, it's a serious profession.
Yes.
And he said, "But you're always talking about what you're doing. Why don't you consider staying with it?" And I hadn't thought about it. And he goes, "And you know what? I have these friends and or acquaintances in upstate New York and Lake Placid. And at the time, they owned a property called The Point and the Lake Placid Lodge. The Point was the #1 small hotel. It was Relais and Chateau, Condé Nast, travel, everything in the United States. It was beautiful. An old Rockefeller, great camp.
Wow.
And the least expensive room in 2000 was like $1,500 a night.
Okay.
And the stuff I saw, I did Britney Spears' birthday with Justin Timberlake. That's dating
wow.
myself, right? But we just Jackson Brown playing there for a private party. We just saw amazing things. And I started off, I did every position. I started off as a bellman, did maintenance, front desk, and then finally I kept on looking down to the dining room. And front desk is tough in a hotel because the politics is terrible. You're guest facing, but then you're like the artery, you're the heart. So you talk to, you're constantly asking your own peers basically, all right, there's a toilet clogged over here. Maintenance, can you get there? You're calling housekeeping because they're staring at me. They want their room. Can you please finish this room? Or, it's just a ton of stuff. And I got into the dining room part again. And actually, the gentleman was just down here last week. I was touring him around my restaurants. But the food and beverage director of the property, he's like my mentor still today. And he kind of took me under his wing. And when you start at the top, this is fine dining. The stuff we would do is insane. We would do Wednesdays and Saturday nights, 11-course meals. The ownership would come and host the dinners with the guests and black tie. And you learn the very best. It's easier to, step it down and see where you want to be.
The bar was set really high.
Really high. And then from there, I just really fell in love with the dining room side of it. The show, the action, you can take somebody away for 2 hours, make their night. And you really, really good managers, and you have that control to orchestrate the whole evening. And then you get that high from, I found my passion in that because I really enjoy making people happy. And there's a selflessness to it, but I get something out of it. You go home when you impacted somebody's life, positively. Trust me, you've done it negatively too. But, it feels really good.
But that's a very humanistic side to it that I think a lot of people probably don't consider. is how much you are passionate about this, what you get out of it, how it feeds your soul.
Right.
Because it's evident in just in the way you talk about it that it's so much more than just a business to you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and now it's even more fun, right? Like, we opened our first restaurant, not a lot of money. I had to put everything together. I mean, the cool thing is the first one, which I spent the least amount, is still the highest grossing one I have, which worked out pretty well. But, now with more success and being able to put back into the restaurants and the creativity part and really creating spaces that kind of take you out of your everyday life, that's awesome. And you can really, program the whole thing and the importance of all the little details and different ways that the guests, interact with your space and the whole dining experience. That's where I've really transformed into. And, then it's the other side. I love this business. I want my employees to love it, right? And I feel, the pressure is, right, anybody who has their own business is, damn, I got to make payroll every 2 weeks, right? Like, that's number one. We have over 1,500 employees now. Multiply that by families and all that responsibility on your shoulders. That's the heavy one. And now it's creating opportunities for the employees in the company. Like, I want them to grow.
Like promote from within.
I just put a huge mandate because it was tough. And, now we're kind of settling down after this big growth and saying, okay, we got to get back to culture and this. And I put a mandate that since we have time to kind of settle a little bit, I want 70% of our management coming from within. We can't continue growth of culture and really having a great work. I mean, we want to be the workplace of choice in hospitality, right? Unless you're promoting within. You can't be hiring outside all the time and have a real culture.
No, and that gives people a defined path that they actually have a future with your company.
And to know that they can grow. There's not going to be, a server every day. Or like I tell my general managers, your expectation is to be training your replacement. You should be wanting to be a regional director or moving up in that way. So.
And you're setting a stage for that future growth to come. And, I can hear a lot of this growth pathway and everything you're saying. And that really resonates with me because something that I look for in people that I want to talk to are people that are visionaries, people that are thought leaders, people that see growth as not only something that's possible, but that is required.
Right, it has to be. And that this is a great profession. It gives back to you, as much as you give into it, right? Like, especially from a personal standpoint. And the way, just, every business, but we're very labor intensive. We have a lot of employees to operate a restaurant. And, from I have, I think, 3 or 4 employees that have gone on to open their own restaurants, which makes you really proud, because you've had a hand in bringing them up to seeing that path, and then having, a cook who's now a executive chef. And, that's awesome.
It is.
And creating those opportunities for them and then helping them along the way.
So what do you think sets you apart, and all successful entrepreneurs really, to be able to get to this place where you are, where you have this huge umbrella of restaurants, this big empire you've created, and to be able to be successful? What can you say to other people that is one of those secrets for you?
I don't know. A little bit of crazy. I could say in my business, and I know I have it. One, I have that constant, like the day that fear stops in me, that nobody's going to come, I got to call it quits, right?
That's really interesting. So when you feel like that you're going to be too scared, no one's going to show up,
right?
That will be your I'm going to throw in the towel.
No. When I'm not scared anymore.
When you don't feel like anyone's going to be there, you're like, it's fine, it's in the bag, I'm done.
Then
you're throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
The other part is you have to have, I feel, not like obnoxious, but a strong ego. Because if I don't believe in what I'm doing, my employees are never going to believe in it. The guests, the public are never going to believe in it. So it's just, and being unreasonable about it all and saying, like, this is going to happen. Like I tell people, we can will restaurants to open. It's hard, but I will make it happen.
Do you have a lot of naysayers who have said, absolutely, we can't make that deadline, Ben? Like, this is not going to happen. We're not going to do it.
This past year was, what we pulled off at fine dining levels, I don't think it's been done very, it really hasn't been done that much. It's insane, but we didn't have a choice.
So I hear you say crazy. I hear you say insane. Well, define that for me. You think it's just what, going against the grain, doing something no one else will do?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's also a little bit of really believing that I've never had a doubt that we're not going to do it. And there's so many things out there that are out of our control, and understanding that, but really having a strong grip on what's under our control. And then, I mean, I'm patient, really patient, until I'm not, right? And then, but it's, from contractors and this, and the hard part, after COVID was lead times on stuff. And
from pandemic.
Pandemic stuff. I mean, when air conditioning units take 240 days to get to you,
what do you do?
Nothing I can do, right? We're not going to lose our mind over that, but we're just going to make sure we're completely prepared so when that thing does arrive, we're ready to go.
Yeah, and I imagine that there's so many variables you can't control. Yep. And so it seems like you really rely on this repetitive thing that you've learned will works, your team in place, you being present, you having the confidence to know that there's a will, there's a way, kind of manifestation that this is going to happen.
I think there's a lot of manifestation. I mean, I don't know how else it's happening.
But that makes a lot of sense, though, because I think that so many people, regardless whatever industry you're in, if you don't have the confidence you can do it, you might as well just probably not try.
Exactly.
Because that's what it's about.
And it's going to show. Your team's not going to follow and not get in the trenches with you and say, like, they know this is the date. We got to go.
Yeah, you're going to do it. So what brought you to Houston? You were in New Orleans.
So after Mexico City, we were back in New York. My third child was born, my son. And we were living in like a 1,200 square foot apartment. And my ex was like, okay, I want a house now, and moving out to Long Island or New Jersey or Westchester. And that's kind of where we started looking. And I was like, I can't do this in the restaurant business, to commute like that.
Oh, yeah, because that's a long commute.
It's a longer commute, probably dealing, using trains. And then in my business, there's not a normal timeout, right? Like there's not a normal schedule.
Right.
And I was starting to think about, okay, I want to do my own thing. And my father said, you know what? If you really, really want to do your own thing, you need to look at Florida or Texas.
Okay.
And I would, if you're not, keen on doing this commute, and you want to try to open your own restaurant, I would look at those two states. And my ex was from Mexico City. She grew up coming to Houston all the time. All the Mexicans from Mexico City, especially before NAFTA, they came here to buy Pampers and stuff, and Gap, and the Galleria was famous, right? So she had a pretty decent kind of group of people she knew and from family, and she was comfortable with Houston, and it was easy, Houston to Mexico City, New York, it was all... And actually, my best friend from college, my roommate after college, his first job in law school was down here in Houston, and I was a godfather to his son. And so, let's go to Houston.
Great.
And that's how I got here.
Got it.
And the best move
ever.
ever.
And now you're staying here, right?
Yeah,
You're not leaving.
I love Houston. Not during the summer, though.
No, not during the summer. I don't like the weather, but other than that, yeah. So we talk about these secrets to success. We talk about the, kind of trials and tribulations you went through to get to that. Is there one defining moment that you can share with us that you felt like really was like either something that was an epiphany or a moment in your career that really changed you in some way?
It's hard to know, like when you're in the middle of it, I feel, to know if you're successful yet. Like how do you quantify that? Is it money? Is it how you feel? Is it lifestyle? I'd say there's like two, right? From, okay, I open the first one and you're worried, oh, this is just a fluke, right? Then you do the second, like, please don't be a fluke, right? And then when I open the third, and even the third one, which we opened at B&B Butchers in Fort Worth, and it was in this brand new center, and it's kind of, this guy developed it on his ranch, but it had everything Fort Worth never had. So like their brand new Neiman Marcus, Louis Vuitton opened there. I mean, Tiffany came. I mean, now they have everything, Chanel, everybody, Gucci. And it was difficult in the beginning. It was the first time I had, like, there was obstacles. We weren't crushing it right away. And then around a year and a half later, 2 years, we stayed with exactly our model, and it just clicked. And it turned out it's one of my, actually drops percentage-wise the most to the bottom line.
Really? Okay.
And just a super successful restaurant. So then after that, I was like, okay, we have something here. I can take a deep breath, right?
Because then you can replicate it.
Then
it's
you can
replicate it. It's just a model that you can...
And what did we do wrong? Let's not do that again. And so I remember after that one, I'm like, okay, maybe I got something here, right? And then, and then it's starting, okay, now we're becoming a real company, right? So then the next difficult part was building the infrastructure to do everything, right? I didn't have HR, right? I had an attorney that we'd speak to once in a while, but now we start bringing things in-house and PR and marketing, and now it's a whole new animal. Like, I have a corporate office. I mean, and in 3 years, we went from 10 people in the corporate office. I have around 50 right now.
Wow.
I mean, big finance. I mean, we pay a lot of bills, right?
Yeah, for sure you do.
HR is unbelievably important. And then we got that. And so all these kind of milestones and say, okay, we've made these mistakes, and we have. We've made personnel mistakes. I think we've made structural mistakes. We changed our model from saying, okay, when it was one restaurant, I was like, the guest is first. Well, now the guest can't be first. Our employees have to be first. And we completely flipped it.
Okay.
And said, because if our employees aren't first, then how are they ever going to take care of our guests?
Valid point.
Right? So kind of changing the mindset of the company to like, let's really work hard on, employee happiness and satisfaction and training. And that has to lead in a better way to the guests' satisfaction. And I think it has. But then having that ability to, obviously when you're a private company, you can make those changes faster. And you're not, unfortunately, I think we've become a tiny bit of a bureaucracy right now, right? Yeah. But when you have 16 different concepts and they all have different menus and menu changes, things just take a minute. But once you start finding those things and they start working, you're like, okay, we got this one, and you can keep going forward. But I don't think there's ever that time where I'm just like, we got it. Because also in the restaurant business, and I'm not sure, I'm sure other businesses are like this, but I would love for it to just be in the middle. But we have such highs. My days are just, one day it's up here, and the next day you're punched in the gut, and it's down here. And that's the one thing where I feel if you can handle that and keep persevering through it, and never let those lows get too low and those highs get too high, like controlled in your head. Because one day I could be on top of the world, and the next day you're like, oh God, everything's falling down around me. I still like dream of just cruising right in the middle, But I think I've accepted that's not going to happen. Just the way our business runs, and the ups and downs, and the way we're affected by everything. If it rains, people don't come out. There's so many things out of our control. Right. I mean, we can have great food, great service, but a tornado comes through like twice in 6 weeks and knocks out stores, and you just roll with it and keep going.
It makes a lot of sense to me, though, because I hear how self-aware you are. I mean, in just this small conversation, I hear you talking about your mindset. I hear you talking about managing expectations, about confidence, even about saying, yeah, it was so much I had to check out in self-care for 7 days, and I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to be removed from the world. That self-awareness, I think, plays a big part in anyone being successful in any aspect of business.
Oh, I mean, and I wasn't always, I would say, this self-aware, but when you have to work on yourself, like I was a restaurant manager. I knew restaurants, and I opened my first one, and I was in there every day. And then when I had to grow into more a CEO position, and those roles start changing, you start kind of thinking more and more of, okay, who am I? How am I affecting the people around me? What's positive, what's negative? Because a lot of, especially when you're at the top, it gets a little lonely sometimes. People are not always going to tell you the truth, right? I mean, the guy underneath me is going, hey, Ben, you're being a real dick. You're like, probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
Not that much. So you spend a lot more time by yourself thinking about it, or at least I think probably more successful leaders do, saying like, okay, I have to give myself feedback. And I think that's a hard thing to do, and to be honest with yourself.
To self-reflect.
Yeah, exactly.
So as you self-reflect and as you try to continue to be on this, strategic path to stratospheric success, basically, we can call it, what do you do for you to make certain that you stay grounded? Well,
I mean, I was really probably not doing enough for myself up until my little running away, and taking care of myself. I always work out. I get up early, but meditation and breathing has helped me unbelievable.
Oh, you're speaking my language.
I mean, I absolutely love it. I'm a little addicted to it now, but I even, create more boundaries. Like I told my, I told people in the office, my assistant, I said, I get up at 5, to go to the gym, but, then I was rushing back, showering, taking a kid to school and rushing to the office for an 8:30 meeting. Like, excuse me. I don't want to do anything before 10. No meetings before 10. That's my quiet. Now, if I want to call somebody up and say, hey, let's go meet for coffee,
right,
fine.
You have that opportunity to do that.
But that time in between there, whether it's just staying in my house and going through my emails myself and not being in the office and not, a bunch of people walking in and that's my peaceful time now. And I think when I come in and now the day's ready to go, I'm in a way better place.
Yeah.
But, except for injuring my foot, I'd get up, take my dog, and I started walking that 3-mile loop in Memorial Park and then sit in front of the pond and do my meditation with my app. And before I go into meetings now, if I'm a little stressed or annoyed, sit down and do my breathing for 5 minutes and then just go in and everything seems better.
I love hearing you say that because I often talk about on this podcast the power of breath work and the power of understanding how to ground yourself. Right. And I think when we can be grounded, we can pretty much face anything that life throws our way. But if we're just running on empty and we don't have any tools, anything in our back pocket to use, I think that's where a lot of failure steps in.
Oh, I mean, the breathing has helped me unbelievable. And just calming myself down. I mean, I've always had anxiety issues and stuff like that. And, just understanding, like, worrying about what something could be is not going to help anything. Just face it. Breathe right before you face it, right? But just face it and move on. It's never that bad. I mean, we've been through some tough times. I've had, lawsuits and this and you're like, oh, when you hear about it, and now, okay, a lawsuit might take 2 years to work itself out. Are you going to sit in hell for 2 years? Am I going to sit in hell for 2 years? That's not fair, right?
Right.
I think it's relaxed me tremendously and really calmed down. I mean, I was on blood pressure medication, all this stuff. I was back at my doctor a month ago. She's like, because I was keeping track of it, she's like, Ben, you're perfect now. I mean, I lost weight, but working out, but just calm down.
I got to tell you the same thing. I even took blood pressure medication. And when I started working years ago on the power of breath work, meditating, therapy, all the self-awareness, cold plunges, exercise, journaling, all those things, it really changes, that mind and body connection.
Now, some days I have to work on a glass of wine or Jameson.
Well, sure.
But it's helped with everything. Helped through the divorce. Just everything seems, as you say, more grounded and just, hey, it's going to come, it's going to go. It's like when the breathing of, not getting upset with thoughts, or when you're meditating, not getting, okay, I can realize something's coming into my head, but we'll just remove it and keep going, right? Like, that's kind of like how your life should go. Some things will come at you and just push it aside or go after it.
And I love that you're talking about that so openly, because I think a lot of people, and specifically even successful men, are more reticent to embrace some of those things. And for people to hear someone of your success, and as an entrepreneur too, that you realize, hey, this works for me, I think that's really helpful for other people to understand that, it actually is something that's pretty amazing to try out.
Well, I'll tell you, I was probably that way before. When I went to Canyon Ranch, I went by myself. Cell phone doesn't work out there in the middle of anywhere. I had to find one little spot where I could call work. And I just told myself, I was looking at the menus of stuff you could do. And I was like, I'm going to try all this stuff. It's not going to hurt me, right? And it was it was awesome. And then to come back and set those boundaries up and say, this is my time, and then keep on going and working it. I mean, I think I've gotten pretty good at meditation now. I enjoy it.
Well, now it's just natural to you, as anything else. And I hope that people can hear that and kind of know that is something that if they adopt in their life, it's only going to make things better.
Yeah, 100%.
And that, of course, I'm going to add in therapy. Therapy helps too with anything. Okay, so you talked about your mentor, and you still have that mentor in your life. How important do you think mentorship is for somebody to have when they're on this entrepreneurial path?
I mean, I think it's important. Definitely. I mean, so it's hard to say. I say he's a mentor. He brought me into this. I call him all the time for questions. Was it like a real mentorship? Probably not.
But you had someone.
But I had somebody to run things against and pop things against. I think it's important. I think everybody needs somebody to talk to, whether it's a therapist. I mean, I'll tell you flat out, I have a therapist. I have I wouldn't call him an executive coach, but he's a psychologist, but he only deals with high-stressed individuals,
Right.
right? CEOs and stuff like that. And I mean, I'll talk to them sometimes once every 2 weeks, sometimes every week, depending on what life is throwing at me. And sometimes, I mean, you know, it's always annoying with therapists. They'll never give us the answer, you know, but and I'm like, you know, but just talking it through to somebody who has nothing to do, no interest in it, completely objective, you kind of find it out yourself.
Right.
Especially in business, I think, or you know the way you should go. You
Right.
Sometimes you think you know, but until you say it out loud, and you got to get that straight before you like go to your leadership team or whoever, or make
Right.
that you know.
And walk through that perspective and
Yeah.
process those thoughts and feelings. So what's next?
What's next?
Yeah, what's next? I mean, you've only have, 19? I mean, how many do you have now?
Yeah, 17 or 18.
Are we going to go for 20, 25, 30? I
No,
mean,
we
what's
already have like
next?
8 in the hopper ready to
Really?
go. So we'll open in 3 weeks. This one I'm really excited for. It's our first fast casual.
Okay.
And that one we have big plans for pretty rapid expansion. It's called Buttermilk Baby.
Buttermilk Baby. Oh, I like the name.
And it's I like to call what I'm calling it is like the new nostalgia
Okay.
of the soda fountain. So like there's that nostalgic piece of those 1950s like soda fountains. I guess down here you would call them like the pharmacy,
Yes.
counters. But I want in 50 years to people look back at what we did here and say, oh, that was nostalgic. You know, like that's for our generation, and present time.
And where's that going to be?
The first one's going to be in MKT.
Okay.
And but it basically imagine taking a Shake Shack. Now we blew it out of the water with menu items and stuff like that, and the Southern twist and biscuits are a big deal, with buttermilk and everything. And then where Danny Meyer's first idea with Shake Shack was because he had all the super high end restaurants in New York, is let's strip everything down and have chef quality food. But we'll make it affordable because we're not going to put anything else in there. Well, I guess inflation helped us out a lot. So now, like, he's expensive now. Like, we can charge for it. So what we're doing is we're giving that experience. I mean, the place is bursting with colors, and it's loud. The whole thing just really transports you out of it. I mean, we have a sundae with cherry spinning, like on a sundae bar.
How cool!
We have a unicorn with obviously the Instagram is really important.
People
so
have
like
to,
this
have
is
to
going to
capture the image.
Yeah, but we have the idea is like make it where adults want to be and kids are happy. So bougie shakes, spiked soda fountain drinks for adults. But great burgers, great biscuits. I mean, dirty Shirley's and spiked, cherry lime brickies.
I think this sounds so fun.
I'm really like, and even our bathrooms, right? So like in fast casual, I'm calling it cool casual, right?
Yeah.
The bathroom's a bathroom. We have 3 different bathrooms, and they're all, one's a cherry, like we call it the cherry on top, and then the cake layer, and they're all designed out. And those vestibules you have to have in Houston, which is a code, right?
Yes.
You have to walk through that door before the bathrooms. We have this translucent wall covering everywhere that kind of changes as the colors change. Very pastels.
I bet your
and stuff
designers
like
have so much fun.
Oh yeah, it's a blast. And
Yeah.
then I get some crazy ideas, and they're like, "How do we figure this out?" And then I have a waterfall of over 75 disco balls that are coming down. It's just cool. I can't wait for it to open.
I'm
If you
excited.
can't hear that,
I'm going to be there. This sounds great.
Actually, they're doing all the marketing shots right now. So they did like all the menu shots, and now today is all the fun marketing shots. And I was like, better crush
Well, your
it.
enthusiasm is contagious, so that's great. I can't wait to try it out. So there's really not some end in sight. You don't have a magic number of when I get to this. It's really just when I stop that fear, right?
I mean, we've had to. I have a strategy now. I really didn't have a strategy before. It's like I got curious on something, or there's some kind of cuisine, or I saw a restaurant somewhere and say, "Oh, how can I bring this to Houston?" And then how can I make it mine and make it for Houston, right? And fit into the Houston market. But we've had so many winners right now that kind of the strategy going forward is, listen, Houston's always going to be our playground. We're always, some crazy idea, we're going to do it here. But like take our butchers, I mean, Prime, I've gotten more national interest from developers to do that restaurant in other cities.
It is such an interesting restaurant.
It's just
The
different.
decor, the ambiance, the food, all of it.
Annabelle's, we're going to be doing, Sophia, we're going to be doing, and now we're going to take those and start going to other cities and other markets. And I mean, really, send them out, send it out, and now create, from a financial aspect, that takes our multiple of selling just those pieces or whatever, increases 5, 6 to 11, 10, 12, 13, really can increase, so, listen, I love this business, but we're not doing it for free.
Of course not.
So to create, and really create the opportunities to have some liquidity events in the future.
Right.
And really in my business, unless you start replicating and proving it out in other markets, it's never going to really increase in value.
Well, in order to have a huge liquidity event, you have to have that market exposure everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, that's inevitable.
That is the strategy.
But as long as you just remember us in Houston, and you keep having this be your first place, then we're good with that.
I can't talk about one of them, and I will tell you, if I close this deal, which is getting really, 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 it'll be the coolest thing that's ever happened to Houston.
Oh, I can't wait. With that lead up, woo!
This would be an international story. I know that for a fact.
Well, I'm going to be hoping it happens. How close are you?
It has to probably come to fruition in the next 6 weeks, I think.
Okay, well, if it comes to fruition, you got to tell me. And when I do the teaser for this podcast,
I will tell you.
My viewers and listeners are going to hear something special.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is cool. And we have actually 2 big projects, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think actually 6 projects still like about to get a permit. We're about to start construction in Houston.
It's so exciting. All the forward momentum.
It's fun. It's fun.
And forward momentum with a lot of work-life balance, I hear.
Yes, now
you've got it.
Well, it's like I can take time now to, I took my daughter, moved her into college, and that was tearful.
It's so hard.
And
I got 2 in college. It's so hard.
I never felt old, and then I was like, wow, I have a freshman in college. Like, where's the time gone?
Yeah, it's painful.
But at least I made sure she went to college where I have 2 restaurants right there.
Oh, there you go. Now you have reasons to go.
Exactly.
And see her.
And
she gets the VIP treatment when she goes to the restaurant with her friends.
She's been there she's only been in school well, she did rush last week, I guess, and then school started on Monday. And there's 2 funny things that happened. She's been in B&B Butchers in Fort Worth now 4 times. And she has called me more in these 10 days than I think she called me all last year. Dad, what are you doing, Dad?
But that's great.
That's awesome. No, I love it.
That's awesome. I love that for you.
I mean, there's a little bit of, I need money.
Of course. That's part of the experience. Yeah. But it is that bittersweet thing that happens when you become, the different place as a parent, when your kids are blossoming and they're growing and we have to let them go. And the bond changes, the relationship changes, but it can be a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's also with her, I wasn't worried. I could watch her and see her become a really strong young woman. And I still did the dad stuff, and I bought her this nice purse, and I gave it to her up there. But I filled it with mace and zappers and alarm things, and I sent her these bracelets and testers for the date rape drugs, so you could drop it in your drinks. I still got to do all that,
of course.
But she's like, really, Dad?
You're like, yeah, really.
Yeah, really.
The answer is, yeah, really. That's awesome. It's really exciting to hear everything you've got going on, and I can't wait for all these new concepts and can't wait to try them out. I will personally be there. Something we do on this podcast every time is we talk about a guest question. So a prior guest will leave a question that's unrelated, not knowing who the next guest is, and I got to serve you one up, and then I want you to give me one that we're going to ask for the next guest. So the one that was left for you is, what is your most embarrassing middle school memory?
My most embarrassing middle school memory. What was middle school, 5th through
6th, 7th, 8th.
6th, 7th,
at least here in Texas, it's that.
Yeah.
I don't know maybe where it is elsewhere, but
6th, 7th, 8th. Actually, the guy's still my best friend today.
Really?
And Andy Cohen, and long-time friends, and I think it was our first football practice for school in 7th grade.
Okay.
It was either the day we had to get there, and they start measuring you for your pads and everything. And I think I was so nervous. I know I was nervous, and I just turned around in front of everybody, and the coach is talking, and threw up all over him. That one was pretty bad. And
it stuck with you all this time.
Yeah, and he's still my friend.
And he's still friends with you, so
that's
you
probably
recovered.
a good thing. Yeah. That's probably it.
So what question do you have to leave for the next person that's going to sit in that chair?
So this one might be too personal or weird, but
no such thing here.
No such thing. What, I would ask, because you're alone a lot sometimes. Like, what's the weirdest thing you've ever done alone in your office?
Ooh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. There could probably be some good.
That might be really good.
You could go a lot of directions there.
Well, it's really a pleasure to have you join us today, Ben. I'm so excited for all your success, and I'll personally continue to dine at all these restaurants. So keep it coming.
Thank you. This was a blast.
Thank you, Ben.